What if I told you that Ferrari is going to run two completely different cars in the 2026 tests, and that the engine of one of them could break a technical taboo that no one dared to challenge in decades? Today I explain to you why Fred Vasseur's announcement not only changes Ferrari, but shakes the entire Formula One from its foundations. When Fred Vasseur took the microphone at the traditional season-ending press conference in Maranello, no one imagined the caliber of what he was about to announce. Most expected optimistic statements, clichés, perhaps a gentle self-criticism about the mistakes of 2025. But it was not like that. What he said was direct, raw, and left the paddock silent. He said literally, "We will finish assembly of the car the day before launch. The launch will be on January 23rd. That means we will finish the car on the 22nd. And this is aggressive." It is not common to hear a team leader say bluntly that they are against the clock. But the most surprising thing was not that. This is what came next. Ferrari is going to present two different cars for the 2026 season. Not two versions of the same base. Not a progressive evolution. Two different technical philosophies, ready to be tested on the track in parallel. This is not a contingency plan. It is an unprecedented strategic bet in the hybrid era of Formula One. Why two cars? Because Ferrari cannot afford another season of falling behind. After 3 years without victories, the pressure on Maranello is total. The patience of the fans is at its limit. Investors are restless. The media environment increasingly critical. And above all, the ghost of recent failures still hangs over the team. Especially the premature abandonment of the development of the SF25 in April 2025, to focus all resources on this new project. This context is essential to understand the magnitude of the announcement. Ferrari is not betting on an improvement. He is launching an all-out offensive. The Scuderia has understood that in 2026 it is not enough to be competitive. They need to be revolutionaries. They are looking for a technical break so radical that it can turn the new regulation into an opportunity and not a threat. The strategy consists of first launching a specification A, focused on obtaining reliability, collecting data, analyzing thermal flows, testing the integration of the new power unit and its electronic systems. This car will not be fast, but it doesn't need to be. Its function is to discover, validate, expose hidden problems before they cost championships. Then, a few weeks later, Specification B will arrive. This version will seek speed. It will be the synthesis of what has been learned, refined with the feedback of its two-star drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. It is here that it will be defined whether Ferrari really has a winning car for the first year of the new technical cycle. What does Ferrari gain from this risky bet? Thermal resistance, structural robustness, and above all, the ability to operate the engine under conditions much more extreme than those allowed by aluminum. With these cylinder heads, Ferrari seeks to fully exploit the new 2026 regulations, which will further limit the use of the internal combustion engine, forcing teams to maximize efficiency in each combustion cycle. And this is where steel comes into play. It can withstand much higher internal pressures and temperatures without deforming, allowing engineers to push ignition and compression parameters like never before. We are talking about taking the engine to work in conditions closer to a laboratory than a track. Aggressive thermal cycles, ultra-lean combustion mixtures, millimeter electronic control, and all this supported by an engine architecture designed from the ground up to withstand this type of stress. But of course, steel also has its costs. It's heavier, more difficult to refrigerate, more complex to manufacture with precise tolerances. That is why Ferrari's decision is so shocking, because it implies that they have redesigned the entire packaging of the car around this solution. From the chassis structure, to the cooling systems and the internal distribution of the electrical elements. And here comes another key piece of the puzzle, the new battery. Ferrari is not just changing the cylinder heads. It is introducing a completely new energy storage system. More compact, lighter, and with greater energy density. This frees up space in the rear area of the car, partially compensating for the increase in mass in the cylinder heads, and optimizing the center of gravity. But in addition, this redesign also seeks another critical advantage, improving airflow in the area of the side pods and the diffuser, thus improving aerodynamic efficiency in an era where every millimeter counts. Ferrari's real goal is not to have more power. It is to achieve a thermal efficiency greater than 50%, something that until recently was considered a utopia in combustion engines. But in 2026, with a more powerful MGU-K, less assistance from the MGU-H, and a strict fuel limit, that efficiency is not a luxury. It's a necessity. In a sport where every second on the track is calculated, Where every test is used to the maximum to validate a single line of development, Ferrari has decided to double the bet. Literally. The plan for the 2026 preseason includes something unprecedented in the hybrid era, presenting two versions of the car. Not a progressive evolution. Not a step-by-step update package. We are talking about two technical philosophies facing each other on the track. A litmus test that will define the immediate future of the Scuderia. The first phase will take place in Barcelona. The so-called Specification A will roll there. It will not be the definitive car. It doesn't even seek to be. Its purpose is much more fundamental. Collect structural data, check the interaction of the new components and validate on the track what is only theory in simulators. It will be an experimental platform where the cooling systems, the thermal behavior of the new engine with steel cylinder heads, the electronic management, the integration of the new hybrid elements and the efficiency of the general packaging will be evaluated. And although many may underestimate it for its lack of raw speed, this version is critical. Here it will be tested whether extreme solutions such as steel in the engine or redesign of the internal architecture really work in real conditions. If something goes wrong at this stage, the margin for reaction will be minimal. That is why Vasseur has insisted that Barcelona is a session to collect mileage, not to beat times. Each lap will serve to map temperatures, record vibrations, validate sensors, and find anomalies before it is too late. But the real climax will come weeks later in Bahrain. This is where Specification B will appear, an evolution of the most promising philosophy based on data collected in Barcelona. This second car will be more aggressive in terms of design, closer to the racing version, sharper aerodynamically, more optimized from the point of view of weight-power balance. And most importantly, it will be the version that will seek pure performance, the real contender to debut in Australia. In Formula One, design concepts don't just evolve. Sometimes they go full circle. What was once considered obsolete can be revolutionary again. And that is exactly what Ferrari is doing with its front suspension system for 2026, returning to the pushrod, a design that it has not used for more than 15 years. But this is not a return for nostalgia. It is a perfectly calculated technical choice. And above all, deeply symbolic. Pushrod suspension was dominant for many years in F1. Its architecture allows the shock absorbers and torsion bars to be located lower in the chassis, improving the center of gravity. It also facilitates more efficient packaging that promotes aerodynamic flow under the nose of the car. However, with the arrival of ground effect cars in the hybrid era, many teams including Ferrari opted for the pull rod system, which offers different advantages in terms of mass distribution, visibility and behavior in certain types of corners. Ferrari's decision to abandon the pull rod and return to the push rod is not simply a mechanical preference. It is a complete reconfiguration of its aerodynamic concept. The SF26 will not be a simple evolution of the SF25 or SF24. It will be a car with a totally different philosophy, which starts from how the front wheels connect with the rest of the chassis. And this has consequences at all levels. With the pushrod, Ferrari will be able to reorganize the aerodynamic volume in the lower front part of the car. This region is critical in 2026, since with the new rules more focused on efficiency and hybrid energy, the clean air flowing under the car will be one of the most valuable resources to generate downforce without penalizing drag. By having the suspension elements higher, airflow can be channeled more precisely to the car floor, barge boards and cooling ducts. But there is more. The change also responds to the new mass distribution imposed by the use of steel cylinder heads and a more compact battery. Ferrari now needs to rebalance the car from the front axle to compensate for changes to the rear axle. And this is where the pushrod comes into play. This system allows you to more precisely adjust the structural rigidity during braking, the geometry of the wheels and the initial behavior of the car when entering a curve. This is key for pilots, especially for Hamilton, who throughout his career has relied on stable and predictable corner entry to maximize his driving style. And also for Leclerc, who is known for his aggressive braking and needs a front axle that responds with millimetric fidelity to the limit. In short, what Ferrari is doing is not just adapting a suspension system. It is reinventing how the car connects to the track. And that affects everything, from the driver's feeling to the way the tires heat up, how the car responds to changes in direction, and how it behaves under prolonged braking or high-speed corners. Project 678, which will give life to the SF26, is the riskiest bet that Ferrari has made in 2 decades. And it's not just because of the steel cylinder heads, pushrod suspension or dual-spec plan. It is because of the implicit message it carries within. Ferrari has decided to stop surviving. He has decided to risk losing everything to win again. And that implies consequences. If this car fails, if the technical plan does not work, if the results do not arrive, there will be no excuses. There will be no room to justify delays or blame the regulations. Everything has been put at stake. Everything has been built from scratch for this opportunity. And that also means that Vasseur will never have another like it. He knows it himself. This car, this philosophy, this break with the previous, is his final letter. It is the project that will define his time at Ferrari. For better or worse. Let me know in the comments what you think of everything.